Howdy, friends and neighbors. Hope you guys are doing well. Looks like the mic being all right. This light is pretty bright. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Give you guys a break. Oh, man, a lot going on. It's been a long weekend of combine activity. It's nice to see you all. Faces in the chat. Welcome back. Our ever-loving mod is here, Aaron Morrow. Everybody give him a hand. Aaron, I know you've had a couple of great questions lately. We might have to revisit them because I'm having trouble getting connected to Twitter right now. So I'm going to break out this chat and we'll get going. A little bit of update just on the Cam Irving situation. It looks like they're not going to carry through and keep his option. Saves them a little bit of money, about 3.2 against the cap, and I think all goes towards Chris Jones signing, anything they might be trying to do in free agency, etc. And I do feel like they are going to have to do a couple of things in free agency. I don't know if they're going to be big impact guys. If they do, I do feel it's going to be at the cornerback position, possibly the O-line. Those two areas that I'm thinking are the big deal. Cam Irving did some good work for them. I just don't. I think he outlived his contract, is what it is. And as a backup, making that much money, you got to spend the money somewhere else when you're that tight against the cap, and you have big fish to fry like Mahomes and Chris Jones. You just can't get away from that. So that said, before I forget, tonight's beer. This is Mountain Standard from Odell. It's a nice mid-grade IPA, tasty. Here's to you. Anybody who's new to the channel, make sure you hit the sub button. Hit that notification bell so you see what's coming, as well as leave your comments in the chat. And if you're watching this on review, you don't have to use the question marks at the beginning of your question or anything like that. If you're not seeing it in the live stream, then just put your question in the comments like normal, and I will try to get in and answer them all over the next few days. The Chiefs did have a big presence at the Combine. There's a lot of work going on right now. Jeff Porter, thank you for all of your help. Jeff's helping me with Rogue Analytics this year, trying to get all the data in there. I've got about half the positions done so far in terms of trying to get it all calculated. The athletic matrix is coming together. I'm going to have rundowns for you guys over the next few weeks. Jake Alec, thank you very much for your super chat donation, folks. If you want to help the channel out, help me out, feel free to use the super chat. Or the super stickers, those are great too. As you can always get the shirts and everything else. That's a real efficient way to help the channel as well. Jake hit the first one, so I guess we'll jump into his question and we'll just get rolling from there. And Jake asks, "Who's the biggest surprise for you at the Combine?" Honestly, I expected Becton to do well, but he did even better than I thought. But I wouldn't say that was a surprise. William Gay, the linebacker, came out of nowhere in terms of just how much speed he has. I felt like Isaiah Simmons performed as we all expected. He was very, very athletic. Really happy with what Murray did. Not happy to see him get hurt. I thought Patrick Queen performed about as I expected. Unfortunately, pretty lackluster edge group. I was not very impressed with them. That was a bit of a surprise. Now, maybe that's just because Chase Young didn't run and Chasen didn't run. Chasen from LSU, I think, is a really interesting guy. Might have been a better fit for the old 3-4 system than the current system, but that's the way that I go back real quick. Stevie Keys, anyone think that Veach scouts the XFL? They definitely do. I know that they scouted the AAF previously, so I don't think it's a concerted effort. They don't have area scouts going around all the time, but I know they have some kind of representation, somebody reviewing the film. So leave no stone unturned attitude that most teams, and especially the Chiefs, will take in trying to make sure that they don't miss a player that will be available to them. So definitely they scout that one as well. I don't know if the level of competition is the same or better or worse, but they'll find out. And I haven't been that impressed. I don't know. I'm a little jaded about it, to tell you the truth. I'd rather see guys that haven't been in the league get a chance more, guys that are still on the career arc going up, rather than guys that have already been there. And thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I'm trying to get. I'm going to offer a couple of different things from Rogue Analytics this year. I'm going to give you just a reduced cost, a basic draft guide. It'll probably be between $7 and $10, less than last year's was. by a good bit, 30, 40%. There's just lists of the guys. And then the full profile thing with all the production and all the things and all the pretty graphics, the stuff that takes me so long. That'll be a separate thing. It topped 260 pages last year for those of you that like to find draft guides. Mine's based on athleticism and production. I don't do film grades. I watch film grades to set my big board, and that will be part of this channel as well. But the athleticism guide is for all the prospects in terms of their athleticism and a little bit of production. That big one will be a little bit more this year because I have some graphics editors working and that kind of thing. So a lot going on there. But thanks for bringing that up, Aaron. I always forget to talk about the draft guide. Let's see. Stevie Keys, Keith Reeder. I'm not sure. Oh, you weren't asking me. Never mind. Jalen Jones. What do you think about John Hightower from Boise? I think he's a guy that is back on my list. I had him on my watch list back last playoff cycle. So college championships of 18. I had put him on my watch list. And then for some reason he fell off of it. I don't remember why, but now he's going to go back on it because I haven't watched any of his film. I didn't watch the Boise offense much at all. I did watch the Boise defense a little bit. And I'll tell you another guy that I have to go back and watch now at Boise is Ezra Cleveland. And it's not because he's that great. I do feel like he's a solid prospect, but his athleticism really showed out. And what that does, and I think you've heard this probably from a lot of the reputable film analysts, where they had a mid to late, a lot of late round grades on him. And now they got to go back because his athleticism stands out so much that they got to go reassess what they saw the first time. And I'm definitely in that group. I hadn't watched him in particular, but he's the kind of guy that fits what the Chiefs like to profile, an athletic offensive lineman that needs time to develop, needs time in the weight room. Very much the same storyline as Eric Fisher, although Eric Fisher was a much better prospect on film on the field coming out. So it's not apples to apples, but there are similarities there. So Ezra Cleveland is a guy that I think I have to go watch, and I encourage you guys to do that too. Boise's tackle, I believe he played left tackle predominantly, had a few right tackle snaps. I'll have to look that up. But I feel like a lot of the Western schools are omitted a lot of times because of how much the SEC dominates the college landscape. So anywhere you can find prospects that other people aren't watching, the better. That really helps you in terms of getting your draft class where you might get 10, 15 pick advantage on somebody because they didn't watch enough film on someone. So it's important. Great question there, Jalen. And Andy Anderson, what team do you think the KC trades down with? If they're trading down, the only thing that makes sense is to go down no more than 10 picks, probably. So you can look at all the teams in the top 10. They'll all be there as well. I don't think anybody's traded out of the 32 to 42 range that I know of. So, Browns, Giants, that whole crew, any of them, especially if they feel like they need an impact defender in the first round, any of those guys, probably all of them at some point will be inquiring about moving back into the first round for a backup quarterback, for a guy that they can develop. I think they're happy with Daniel Jones in New York, but I wouldn't put it past them to draft another quarterback. I would if I were them. I'd be looking to spin that room over and over and over until I find somebody that consistently can throw the ball, not turn it over, and win me ball games. That's what I'm looking for. So I think that group is definitely where I'd be looking because it gives the Chiefs enough value moving back into the top of the second that you could still get what is a top 30 prospect that has fallen because there's going to be so many extra wide receivers and there's so many extra quarterbacks this year. I think the quarterbacks are being pushed up even more dramatically than normal, to tell you the truth. So looks like I'm dragging. Sorry, you guys. I don't know if my video upload is dragging or not. I'll close your eyes and I'll keep talking. How's that? Let's see. Stevie. Okay, next question. Gary Holland. What's up, Gary? Who was the best CB and linebacker in the combine? It depends what you're looking for. If you just want flat out athlete, I mean, you can't really get away from Isaiah Simmons as a linebacker. I truly think he belongs more as a strong safety. I want him in coverage more than I want him taking on blocks or trying to come out, even from a chase will position. I prefer him as a box safety with a couple of other big linebackers on the field. That's what I would do with Isaiah Simmons. But he did come to the combine heavier than I expected. I expected him to be in the 228 to 230 range. He came in at 238. That's definitely big enough to play linebacker at the will spot. So I'm comfortable with that if that's where they wanted to play him. He's definitely the most athletic. But I think what you also saw is that while everybody thought it was Simmons and Queen, well, Queen and Murray are more even than I think a lot of people thought. Even Phillips came up pretty athletic. I don't think anybody's going to take a chance on William Gay in terms of like a first round or a second round pick, but he got himself probably a 2-round bump from what was a fifth or sixth to a third or fourth is my guess based on athleticism. He's had some issues. He's punched a teammate in the face at one point. So yeah, there's some issues there. But definitely stood out there. In the cornerback group, I was really happy with Christian Fulton. I think you guys know that I've been pretty happy with him in general. Let me look at the rest of the list real quick. I don't have all the information on them. The broadcast doesn't always give you the information, so I have to get that from some other sources. So I don't have the athletic matrix complete for everyone in the corner group yet, but I am working on that. And like Aaron said, I'm hoping to be a little bit ahead of schedule. In terms of an athlete, probably the one that stood out, Wake Forest, Isang Bailey. He ran better than I expected at 4.46. CJ Henderson was a touch faster than I expected. I thought mid 4.4s, but he ran a 4.39. That's pretty good. But clearly, I was very happy to see that Jeff Okuda, however you pronounce it. I was happy for him to see that he lived up to the hype in terms of being as good an athlete as he is on the field. His technique is very good. He can be aggressive, yet he can play off when he needs to. If you guys missed the clip, I retweeted it about some media member, and from the sound of it, some very young and inexperienced media member giving him static about getting quote unquote sloppy. And he said, I've never had a PI and I've never been called for holding. So what exactly are you talking about? Good for him. I think too many prospects get caught up in the idea that they have to be amenable to random opinion. Fight for what your tape says for you. I like that a lot. I thought that showed some confidence and some resolve from him. Chiefs will be nowhere near able to get Oduka, however you pronounce it. And I think that's a little bit too bad. I like the guy. Like what we saw from AJ Terrell. Henderson was quick. I still feel like the guy that I'm leaning towards in terms of being long, this is a class that I think there's only 8 guys who met my threshold for arm length. And the Chiefs do like long corners. They have traditionally anyway. I still feel like Trevon Diggs is a guy that needs to be up at the top of the list for the Chiefs. He didn't run. He will at his pro day, and that's really what we have to wait for. So I am still pretty high on him. I don't think Fulton hurt himself, and I don't think he made himself a lot of money. So I think he's still going to be there at the bottom of the second, 25-ish or so. If the Chiefs do choose to move up, if they get a trade for Chris Jones and they get, say, a 1 and a 2, maybe they'll be in that range, and that's something that they can go do. So I remain very open to what the cornerback group's going to give them. Great question, Gary. Thank you for asking it. Brian Hooch, as always, thank you very much, sir. You are by far the most active contributor on this channel, and I thank you for it. Tag and trade Jones, lose Fuller, draft Winfield Jr. I like Winfield Jr. My only problem with it is I don't feel he can go up and take the ball away from bigger receivers and tight ends. He is only 5'9". He didn't come in at a weight that I thought really helped him. Let me double check that. Where did he go? Yeah, it came in at 203, which is solid. But, I mean, over the middle like that, 5'9", 203, that's tough. There are a number of guys that stood out, including the kid from Southern Illinois, Jeremy Chin. ran real nice, showed athleticism, obviously from a school that is not on my watch board. I'll tell you that. I will go back and check him out, but he's 6'3", 220, and ran faster, just a touch faster than Winfield at 5'9". So that's a huge difference. And it's a difference that you'll see on the field too. So while I do like Winfield, I don't think you're going to go after him with like a second round pick or anything like that. At least I wouldn't. So good points though, Brian. Jonathan Hobbs, Brice Hall at the end of round two, would be a great fit with Thornhill and the Honey Badger. Yeah, and I think he was very when he was interviewed, I felt like Hall was very adamant about enjoying the idea of playing with Thornhill again, having that relationship. And I think that's something that flies under the radar quite often, to tell you the truth. That guys get used to playing together, and they have that kind of connections that help you not have to communicate as verbally as directly, and so that helps you disguise what you're doing on the field, gives less things away. Breland and Fuller played together in Washington for a while, and I thought that really went to show like how they came together as a unit there this year. And I think Breland ended up paying some big dividends. And going back to the comment about Trevon Diggs being one of the longer corners with the arm reach, you saw what Bashaud Breeland can do with his arm length, and how he, especially against not only the Super Bowl, but back against Edelman in the end zone, just the long reach. That's why the Chiefs like long-armed corners. And I think that goes to show why they like them, and that it is still very applicable as coverage becomes more and more important in the NFL. Being able to stop passes, and by stop, I mean break them up, force incompletions on those receivers. I think that becomes very, very important. Ethan Hunt, how are you? This message will not self-destruct. Thoughts on the Missouri tight end that ran fast? Very surprised that he ran that fast. This is Albert O that you're talking about. I haven't done film on him specifically because, quite frankly, he's never warranted it. What I've seen live of Missouri games, he has been pedestrian at best. I think he is clearly, after this, I feel like he is more of an athlete than he is a receiver or a pass-catching tight end. But that athleticism buys you time to develop. So if they were to take him on day 3, try to give him a shot to develop, I have no problem with that. Little homegrown kind of guy. I think you're there. Pie dessert. You're such a Jayhawk homer. Well, okay. You don't have to watch there, Pie. I'm going to talk about what I think, and that's the way it's going to be. So, hey, sorry, pal. I would rather lock up another anchor on our D line and get some athletic youth in our defensive back instead of break the bank on a CB. Except CB is the one thing that you have to have because you have 2 of them on the roster. So, hey, I don't get a chance to be a homer for the Jayhawks very often because there's just not that many of them in the league. So I'm going to take my opportunity. That's really all I got to say about that. That's going to be kind. So 65 TPT, any chance that Simmons falls to 32? No way. I don't think that he falls to 10, to tell you the truth. That's a tough one. If you're hooked on Isaiah Simmons, you got to go trade up. Let's see. Yevgeny Kimlov. Which small school prospects do you want the Chiefs to draft in the later rounds? I talked about the one from Southern Illinois, Chin, the safety. I would love to see them get a chance at the kid from Lenoir-Rhyne, Duggar, another safety. But I think that he's worked his way into probably the top 2-3 rounds. So I don't think the Chiefs are going to have an opportunity, to tell you the truth. I think he's going to be gone. And, hey, more power to him. I like the linebacker from Wyoming as a late round guy. I heard some of the announcers say that they thought that they played himself or tested himself into the 3rd or 2nd round. I hope that's not true because I think he's a guy that I'd like to see available in the 4th. That'd be great. But yeah, there's options out there. And I'll continue. I'll have more of those guys for you as we go through the process. I'm really focused on getting the metrics done first, and then I'll go back to the tape. Gary Holland, who does the Chiefs draft as far as the O-line that you like? The O-line's interesting. The group is not overly they're not overly powerful. I mean, and it honestly is kind of it's a shame because it's a commentary almost on how the degradation of the offensive line as a unit goes on, because college players are playing more spread. They're playing more single stance. They're paying more. They're not grinding. They're not as powerful. A year over average, you see the power aspects come down. And I think that's unfortunate because you see what teams can do, like the Ravens and like the Titans, when they do choose to run. You need some of that power. You don't have to do it all the time, but you need some of it. On the flip side, I think the evolution of players like Wirfs and Wills, Cleveland tested very well. So did Cesar Ruiz, the center from Michigan. A little underpowered at the point of attack from what I've seen on film. But I like him. I don't think he'll be available for the Chiefs at 32. So I don't think a center, big dilemma to make a center call with the first round. So I don't think that's going to come down to it. Who was somebody else that stood out to me? I was sad to see that Damian Lewis got hurt. I think Cushenberry did as well. I wanted to see both of those guys run full runs. They didn't do the shuttles. Damian Lewis didn't. And Damian did not look athletic as much as I expected him to. So I was a little disappointed there. Andrew Thomas looked good in his movement. Who else? There was one more guy that I wanted to point out to you guys, and I think it was Tyre Phillips, Mississippi State. A guy that I don't think he's earth shatterer, but he came in and he performed better than I expected him to by quite a bit. So, next question. S. Burke, what's your favorite position to scout? This will give things away, but the truth is, I always like to look at defense first, and I like to look at the linebackers first. I think you can build a defense from the core. I think this is a really interesting year because you're seeing the especially off-ball linebackers, the coverage linebackers, be emphasized more than we've seen in quite a long time. So the NFL's to the point now where they've kind of bolstered their pass rush and bolstered their secondary. Now they're starting to fill in the middle, and so they're swinging back around to what I like to look at first. Ethan Hunt, any thoughts on the running back James Robinson from Illinois State? Didn't know him before this weekend. Haven't done any film on him. Again, small school guy. That's another guy to add to the small school list. Just going to have to do some look at him whenever I can. So I'll have more thoughts on it after that. Sorry, just don't have a lot of background on him. What do you think about Jalen Johnson? John Crosby asks. He's on my list in the second tier. I think he will be somewhere between like a 50 and a 75 selection. So the Chiefs will have a shot at him, I think. Would like to see more length on him. He's one of the guys that came up, I think, pretty short-armed. If I look again, I can tell you exactly. But I was a little disappointed, I want to say, in that. Yeah, armed like 31 and a half, 31.4 actually. And didn't come out blazing. I thought he'd be like a high 4.4 guy. He came in at 4.51 was his best run, so pretty close, but not great. The interesting thing about Jalen Johnson is his change of direction is pretty good. He's just above 4 on the short shuttle, and more importantly, the 3-cone moving in space, it's more direct. He's right at 7, so that's not earth-shattering. It's not bad either. So I think he's a nice second, third round pick, right about where he ought to be. Next. Okay, Marshall Smith. Who takes over at strong safety if we continue to play Matthew primarily at the slot nickel? No one has to take over. That'll be Dan Sorensen, just like it was this last season. He's still under contract. You're not losing anyone but Fuller. You still have Watts under contract. Oh, I'm sorry. Lucas is not under contract as well, so you could lose him. I think they might make a run and bring Fuller back, but he, again, will be there for his coverage. He will play near the back. Right now, Dan Sorensen is going to stay on the roster. I think he will stay on the roster permanently, at least till his contract runs out, and he'll be the true SS kind of guy. Good question, Marshall. If we keep Fuller, do you see the Chiefs picking up a safety in the draft? I do. I don't think it's dependent on Fuller. I think they're going to be looking anyway. There's a lot of talk about some of the safeties slipping now just because of how athletic everything else came in. I don't know. That might just be reactionary to the combine. A lot of guys changed boards. A lot of the media analysts changed boards after the combine. the teams don't do it that much. You might get a little bit of movement, 5, 10 spots at most. You're not going to see guys jump up rounds because of the combine, at least not internally on the team's boards. So there will be guys that get a little bit of bump, but it's not going to be, a round or two. That doesn't generally happen. Jalen Jones, what CB do you think the Chiefs could get with their current draft position? I think they can get Diggs. I think they have an outside shot at Fulton. Jalen Johnson will be there like we talked about. I'm trying to think who else. I think Henderson's going to be gone. I think the other guy at 32 that should be there that could fit what they want to do. So those are the big three for me. Aaron Morrow, thank you for asking a question. What do you think about them projecting an interior defensive line to us in the first round? I don't think it's that far-fetched, especially because we don't know what's going to happen with Chris Jones. If Chris Jones gets tagged, like they said they're going to, we haven't seen that official announcement yet, but I expect that here in the next couple of days. They do have quite a bit for the deadline. I think they have like another week. I don't know the top of the deadline off the top of my head, but especially if they tag him and they don't think they're going to get a contract, they will take trade offers. From what I hear, that it's already out there that they're open to trades. So especially if you're going to move him. I like Colin Saunders. I think he can be a very good pass rushing D tackle. I think he played a little bit too far inside, and actually he grew a lot against the run this season. I think he's in for a big rebound, but I don't think he's ready to be a force. You got to get something like 75, 80% of what Chris Jones does in terms of pass rush. And so I feel like another defensive tackle, if he does get traded, is definitely in the making, even for the first round. There are a couple of guys that could go in the second round that could help too, but it's got to be something. You're going to lose Chris Jones. You've got to have more pass rush from that specific position. I do expect Pannell to be back, but his power's against the run. So good question. Cole Keller, I just saw a mock draft today on Walter Football, and he had T. Higgins falling to us at 32. Do you think that they would take him? I don't know. Without his testing, like sometimes he looks fast on film to me, sometimes he doesn't. He is obviously a very big body and would fill that role even bigger than Sammy. But you got to remember, Sammy's a big body, but he's also very explosive, and he's got 4.4 speed, low 4.4 speed. Actually, did he hit 4.38? He might have made it into the 4.3s. And I don't think T. Higgins is going to run that myself. I could be wrong, but I need to see that. I think at the end of the day, the thing that the NFL right now is experiencing is the Chiefs have so much speed on offense. That's what their big asset is. And so I feel like no matter what, if it's a 6-foot guy, a 6'2" guy, I don't think there's going to be a 6'4" guy that can run in the 4.3s, but they have to have more speed. They got to replace Sammy if he is going to go. I know they're open to a contract discussion. I just don't know if that's going to get done. So I need to see Higgins a little bit more before. I need to see him be consistently fast before I can say, yes, do it. Great question, though, Cole. Aaron Morrow, you are correct. Malik Harrison is a more well-rounded, better suited for a 3-down linebacker than even Murray is, in my opinion, although I put more second against the run. And FLDB, it's funny that you say that because I did a Madden draft over the weekend because I was just bored. And I managed to get CeeDee Lamb and Ruggs onto the Chiefs roster with a trade. It was great. I don't play Madden a whole lot, and when I do, it's mostly just for the drafting scenarios. But yeah. Bry Gooch, thank you again. The wide receiver from Notre Dame would be a nice addition to the LOZ, the Legion of Zoom. It's funny you say that because on today's, the one that came out last night, today's Locked On Chiefs, which is up on the RGR channel, it came up this morning. I talked about him, and I don't think he's a true X receiver. He doesn't run routes that cleanly, but I feel like he could be a great tandem with Travis Kelce. And I think his speed is definitely better than Travis's. I think his change of direction is actually better in measurement as well. And I feel like he's not going to be an inline blocker type, but nobody is. Blake Bell isn't an inline blocker. I know he tries to do it, but he's not good at it, and neither will this kid. But Chase Claypool is the guy you're talking about. I feel like he brings, if he were to line up as the H, the slightly broken out tight end spot that Kelce lines up a lot, or lines up outside like Kelce does, slot, the trip set, all those things. all those receiver type things that Travis Kelce does, this kid can do, and maybe do with better athleticism. So I think that's great. I do like him as an addition. Frederick Kenley. If we don't draft an early CB, is Fenton a CB2? No. Ward is a CB2. Fenton is a third at best right now. Fenton's exposed against long speed, and what he makes up for in aggression can actually bite him if he's going to be put on islands, which is, I think, right now what you would have to do until you bolster that group. But Frederick, that's a really good point. No, he's not a CB2, and Ward isn't a CB1. So they definitely got to get that stuff done. Thanks for the super chat, though. I appreciate that. I don't know that I've seen you do that before, so welcome. Let's see. Next super chat. Thank you from Cody Waters. Every mock draft generator I've ran, Kenneth Murray is there at 32. If he is, should we take him, and can he be a 3-down middle linebacker? Yes, they should take him, and mostly he can be a 3-down linebacker. I like the kid's ethics. I like the kid's work. I like that he told one of the teams this weekend, I'm born to be a leader. Like, I like that. I want that kind of aggression. He plays fast. He plays downhill well. He blitzes very well. Guards can still get the better of him. He's still got to get stronger at the point of attack, taking on guards in the NFL, not something he had to do at Oklahoma. And he plays zone coverage pretty well, in my opinion. He picks up crossers pretty well, but he doesn't turn and run with running backs very well. So there's a little bit of pause there. But I will say this. If he and Trevon Diggs are there at 32, both of them, I think that's a big discussion to have. I think at the end, the cornerback is the more valuable position, just because of what today's league is. But I definitely would consider taking him at 32. And if Diggs isn't there and Fulton isn't there, I would definitely go take him. I like Ken Murray, and I think he would be a good fit in Kansas City. I don't necessarily agree with the mock generators. Word around the league from people that I know that were at the combine and have been networking, doing all that stuff, is the league is much higher on him than a lot of the draft media are. So, Aaron Morrow, where does Albert O and Claypool move up to with their 40 times? Claypool goes from a fourth to a low-end third is my guess. I had him near the top of the fourth to begin with. So I feel like it's going to be a bump, but not a big bump. Albert O, I'm not so sure. Aaron says he catches touchdowns like crazy. Okay, clearly I don't watch enough Mizzou film to know, but I don't remember him standing out in any of the 3 games that I think I've watched of Mizzou on film so far. So I think he gets a little bump. He might get into the 4th round. I think he's probably more of a 5th or 6th myself, but just takes one, right? And Aaron, if you're right, I'll go watch more film on him. I don't even know his stats. Maybe I'll just go look up the stats and see how he did. But good question. Lucas Clemens, childhood likelihood CJ is playing for the Chiefs next season. That's a good question. That's a very, very good question, Lucas. I'm going to put it right now at about 60%, maybe 55%. And that could be signing the tag, playing on the tag, or with an extension. I'm counting that as either one. But I do think there's a significant possibility that he will just demand too much money that the Chiefs are unwilling to pay, and he will be traded. I think that is a significant likelihood, probably at 45% right now. Larry Heimer, thanks, buddy. I'm glad you made it here too. Oh, I thought you had a question, but you didn't. But hey, welcome, Larry. Zach Scott, can we create cap space for Chris Harris Jr.? They can. Sammy's a big chunk. They already got 3.2 from not taking up the option on Cam Irving. It can be done, especially the way that they structure it. What they did with Frank last year is Frank got his signing bonus. So I think that was like 7 or 8 against the cap. And then he only made for salary $900,000. I know that sounds $900,000 is a lot of money for me and for you. for an NFL player, it isn't, especially of that caliber. So if they can get him to sign a 2 or 3 year deal, which means basically it's a 1 year deal because all the money will be stacked at the back and they'll release him before that is basically the way that would work. But they can give him money up front. He'll be happy with the bonus. He'll be a happy player. He'll probably count 7, 8, something like that against the cap. And then they'll only have to pay him $800,000 or $900,000 versus the year. And so that keeps the numbers down. So yeah, there's definitely ways, and the Chiefs have been pretty consistent at making space for guys that they want to sign. Zach, good question. Richard Triplett, did you see the interview with Chris Jones on Coward? I didn't. I'll try to go see if I can find that tonight while I'm sitting around and see if I can find something, in my 3 minutes of downtime every night when I'm not working on something. Let's see. Dan Harms is telling me that I'm breaking up. So is the video feed still breaking up, guys? Let me know. I'm a little behind the chat, but I'll get there. Let's see. Brian Gooch, does DOD get run next year instead of drafting a linebacker? I'd like to see him get a chance, but no. You're still going to go out and draft another linebacker, especially because DOD can't replace what Reggie does. You need somebody that can help defend the run when you need to, and that's not him. So let's see who's next. Kansas Carolina. Do players value a chance at a ring over big money? Some of them do. I mean, it's like any other walk of life. There's different people with different priorities all the time. And especially when you have a player that is towards the end of their career and they've made their money, the championship becomes more important. Now, Chris Harris in particular has rings. So while I still feel that it's a motivation, it may not be as much motivation for him as it is for some others. So there's a lot there. Good question. Cody Lamp, more likely to draft a tight end or lower tier free agent? That's a good question. I haven't looked at the free agent list for the tight ends, but I will say this. If there's somebody that either Andy Reid or Brett Veach really liked when they came out 4 years ago, and now they're a free agent, I would not put it past them to try to bring in another athletic guy that maybe needs to continue to develop. A guy like Yelder. I think Yelder will probably be back. I think he's an exclusive rights free agent or a restricted rights free agent, one or the other. I think they can tender him if they want. And I'm guessing they will. They usually like to stick through guys that they're trying to develop. So I think that could be a possibility. But you could see another backup guy from somewhere else that they feel has upside, especially if they felt he had upside when he came out. I think that could definitely be a possibility. Cheyenne O'Grady at tight end. Sure. You never know. I mean, you got to get that interview part of the combine is really about is like getting a feel for how you think a guy goes about his work and whether he has room to develop or not. Jordan Hardwick, you're a Saluki. Good job. Love Chin. He could add some pounds and play linebacker. Okay, that's interesting. I'll definitely check that out when I do his film. Thanks for pointing that out, Jordan. Let's see. Next question is John Crosby. What do you think about A.J. Dillon, the late rounds, 4th, 5th round? I like that a lot. You know me. I like a big bruiser back. Like, I love Darrell Williams. I like what he brings. Darrell's big and powerful, and yet he's nimble. He cuts well, and he catches well. I think that A.J. Dillon made himself some money. I think he might have been like a 7th round, like a priority free agent guy. And now I do believe he will get drafted. And if it's a 5th round pick, I am more than okay with that. I would like to see what he does. Yeah, big bruiser that runs like that, I'm down. Brian Gooch, what about the running back from Georgia? I believe you mean DeAndre Swift. He's a first-round dude, probably. You know how I feel about running backs in the first round, but teams are going to take him at the very least in the top of the second. I do feel like he will go. I don't think that you need him in Kansas City. I don't think he's drastically different than Damian Williams. He might be a little bit faster, but Damian's a quick dude. I don't think you have to go out of your way and spend that kind of draft capital up there. If we talk about Harrion, he's the other Georgia running back. I think he's a day 3 guy, bit more of a pass catcher, bit more of a can't put his shoulder down quite as well from what I've seen. I haven't done a lot of film specifically on him, but he's another guy that could be there on day 3 that maybe the Chiefs end up liking. Good question, Brian. As always, and thanks again for the super chat, brother. Let's see. Cole. Of first-round prospects, who, in your mind, has the best chance of sliding as far as the end of the second? The end of the second. First-round guys, They will slide all the way to 2. Man, that's a tough one. It's hard to see that. Neville Gallimore, maybe? I see a lot of variation of where people think teams have him. The defensive lineman from Oklahoma. I could see him be a late first round guy and maybe fall all the way to the bottom of the second too. I don't know. He's not quite huge enough. He's athletic, but he's not. I like the way he plays. I'd like to see him in Kansas City. I just wouldn't spend a first round pick on him. So there's one. Man, I would have to really rack my brain for others. That's a long fall. Myron Enos, running back you like the most. Oof. I was more impressed with Cam Akers in the drills than I had been on film. Makes it tough for me, though, because I don't know which I trust more. You know what I mean? Like, normally I would say the guy's going to play like he's played before. So, like, the fact that he was smooth in those drills, and that Deuce Staley drill, he was awesome at, it doesn't necessarily buy me more confidence that he's going to pan out as a guy that can make a difference in an NFL football game. So, I'm just looking at the list here, and I'll just see who else stood out to me a little bit. I did like Swift. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's interesting. But again, I think some team will select him in the first round, and I don't want to be that team. So, okay. Let's see. Who's the shiftiest dude in the class? That is Jamichael Hasty out of Baylor. He's small. He's 5'8". So that's under my threshold of 5'9.5". But he's an interesting guy. Shiftiness helps. I can't take somebody as small as JJ Taylor either. So that's out. And I would make a slight exception, maybe. Go down to 5'9", which is below my normal minimum, but there's always exceptions. I don't know. Nobody's really standing out. Dobbins didn't run, so there's always him. I guess Cam Akers is probably if you're just asking me to pick my favorite right now, it's probably him or Dylan or the kid from Notre Dame whose name I can never get right. It's because I always say Tony Romo. It's Tony Jones. Sorry. I doubt Tony's watching, but sorry, pal. Okay. Chris Anderson, thoughts on AJ Terrell? Oh, wait, hold on. I missed a couple. I missed Metal Rocker there. Good to see you. I mentioned Marlon, and I think that they go with him. They should use a 3rd or 4th round pick. Marlon, I'm not sure what you mean. A few mocks say that KC will go with Blacklock. I don't know about that. I haven't seen any of those. Blacklock seems like a stretch for me for the Chiefs, but I guess I could see it. I wouldn't do it in the first round, but that's me. John Crosby, if Justin Jefferson falls to 32, would you take him with the first round? That's a very good question. I like what Justin Jefferson does. Big, tall, strong, pretty quick receiver from LSU. Is he fast enough? Does he fit in with the rest of the Legion of Zoom? And Brit Chief, if you're on here, it's the best thing you ever did is say that out loud. Jefferson, I like him. He makes some big plays, and I do like that in a wide receiver. And he ran just fine at a 1.54.10, which means he can get off the ball, and a 4.43. I want to see him change direction a little bit more. He's a little bit linear from what I see on film. I'm sure there are people that disagree with me somewhere, but first round, man, he would be one of the ones that I would consider if the corners are gone and the linebackers are gone that are first rounders. I mean, I generally have about 13 to 18 first round grades when my big board comes out, which is usually the week or two before the draft. When I've gotten all the work in, all the production work, I've seen all the film that I can see, I'll come out with my big board and I'll give you guys where I slot everybody. Usually I have 13 to 18 first round grades. I'm pretty sure Jefferson would be one of them right now. If he's not, he would be at the top of this. If you're picking 32 and your board's exhausted with the guys that you feel are worth that grade and you can't move back, then you have to take a high second round grade. Justin Jefferson would be one of them on mine. Let's hope it doesn't come down to that. Let's see. Okay, now Jack Coyote. If D-Rob becomes a free agent, would he be a good fit for the Seahawks and Russell? It's a good question. Here's the big thing. The big plus for Demarcus Robinson is he is good on the scramble. So when Russell does break the pocket and he's looking to get creative, Robinson is pretty intuitive about that. He's made some very big plays when Mahomes is scrambling. So I can see that working out, but he's a little bit inconsistent. Russell has a tendency, I think, to be looking for someone to be Baldwin. Someone consistent that if he puts the ball in the right place, he knows it's going to be caught. I'm not sure DeMarcus is that guy. I could be wrong. I fully admit I hold grudges a little more than I should. But I could see that working out. I just don't know if they're willing to pay him. I wouldn't put it past him, though. I mean, he's deceptively athletic. He has a little bit of trouble at concentration. And quite frankly, in the Seahawks system, when you know they're going to run more, it might be a little bit easier for him. I don't know. Good question. Then we got John's. Okay, so Justin Troba, awesome. Nice to see you. San Francisco still owes us a draft pick from Ford, don't they? Didn't they do that last year? I can't remember. No, I don't think so. I think that's over with. I think they got 2 2s last year, didn't they? Oh, I'll have to go back and look at the draft slots. I want to say that that's over, though. Next, Gary Holland. Would you sign Mahomes to a 4-year, $60 million guaranteed, as in 100% guaranteed? That's tough for me to pull. I would give him. I give him a 10-year. I'd give him an 8-year, $250 million contract with 160 guaranteed. But I'd do that. But you need some room in the guarantees so that you can get out of something if there's an injury or something major, you know? Like, I'm not worried about Mahomes and his arc to be great. I do feel that that is legit. Like, this kid will be happy when he wins 10 Super Bowls. I truly believe that. But you have to guard against catastrophe, you know? The Joe Theismann thing, the Alex Smith thing. Whew, I don't even want to think about that. Good question, though, Gary. Brian Gooch, once again, thank you, pal. What do you think Watts is standing? Oh, maybe maybe you're talking about Armani Watts. Is he staying? I believe he's still under contract. Yes, so Armani Watts is on the roster, unless they bring in too many safeties to compete with him. But I do believe Armani will be on the roster. Yes. Metal Rocker X. If we have to, should we take another running back this year in the draft, or stick with the 2 Williams and Thompson and go for one next year? I've heard rumors that Veach is open to a Hunt return. Whoever told you that is ridiculous, because Clark Hunt isn't. Kareem Hunt is not coming back to Kansas City, you guys. It's not going to happen. Brett Veach can be open to it all he wants. Clark Hunt is not going to let that happen. But more to your point, I think you take the best player that you can get. And I think when you get to the 5th round, you're going to find some interior offensive linemen. You're going to find some running backs. You're going to find that's where a lot of the tight ends probably belong. You're going to find some excess defensive linemen. You're going to find a few corners. I think if the running backs are at the top of your list, or your graded list at that point, then you take them. Yeah. But I am comfortable with Damian, Darrell, and Darwin. And I think they will supplement. They have Elijah McGuire on the practice squad. They can always bring him up. I think there will be some other free agents that are low dollar that can come in and play a role. I don't think you have to have the bell cow anymore. I know Andy tends to do that, but I think the injury thing and the fact that, I mean, Damian Williams gets hurt every season. He's never going to be a 19-game guy. So you got to have some backups. You got to have guys that can come in. So yeah, I think they do need to probably add something, and I'm fine if they do it in the later rounds. Let's see. Okay. Sorry about the stream tonight. Even Aaron's having problems. Sorry, guys. Of all the offensive tackles and QBs and wide receivers, it seems like some of the good edge guys are sliding down in the 1st round. Yeah, they may. Nobody really stood out to me, though, of the guys that performed at the combine. None of them really got me going. where I'm like, hey, maybe the Chiefs should think about moving around to get that kind of guy or that kind of guy. Like, I wanted to see Terrell Lewis run. I like him, and he's kind of like a bigger edge. Like, I think the power edges are definitely guys here. I mean, Epinesa, people are still high on him, and I thought he looked like very unathletic. I was very unimpressed with him. He looks better on film than he does running around. So, like, I think he's going to be a power edge, like somewhere between a 5 technique, and he can probably go outside. Gross Matos is interesting. He is deceptively big. He is 6'5" and 266. I don't get that just looking at him. So I think that's interesting. I want to see Julian Aquara from Notre Dame. I feel like he's got some pop too. I think the Chiefs right now in Spag's system, they want to have heavy power ends, right? But you still got to have a guy that can mix it up. You got to have a speed rusher eventually. So I do feel like that's on the table as well. I like Strobridge as a guy that can play that defensive end. He's played off ball. Like, he's deceptively athletic. He's not, I mean, I'm trying to see if he actually came in above Epinesa. He might have. In fact, he did. Strobridge performed better in the athletic matrix, and I do have the D-line done, than Epinesa did. And he's going to be 3 or 4 rounds below him, probably 4. So in terms of that, like, I feel like you can get some value there. Deldrick Smith, how are you? I know Anthony Hitchens is under contract, but is it possible that we get rid of him for a better linebacker in the draft? Not get rid of, no. Like, I don't think you can trade his contract, and you don't save any money by releasing him. They like his lip and his intangibles. And quite frankly, he did play a lot better in 2019 than he did for Sutton before. So if he can continue to get back to the form that he was in Dallas, which goes double for Damian Wilson as well, if they can both improve, I think they're going to be okay. But I do want to see them get a more athletic executor kind of guy, like execute a game plan where you're an X factor, whether it's a blitz or a coverage or whatever. So I do think that they supplement. I think they do have to concentrate on maintaining a base defense, a 4-3 base defense that they can run out there when they need to. So I think a true will is where they got to go there. I think you can run. I think Queen can play the will. I don't think he has to be a middle linebacker. I don't think Murray has to be a middle linebacker. They can run will. I think there's a lot of options out there. Brian Cooch, man, you're on fire. You rock, and thank you for the super chat, folks. Give Brian a hand, will you? Chance that we see more Pringle, Kemp, and Dieter in 2020. You're going to see more Pringle, I'll tell you that. I'm not sure Dieter makes the roster, and I think Kemp's in for an uphill battle. Yeah. I think the guy you want to watch in OTAs is going to be Jody Fortson. He's going to be pushing to play special teams. I don't even know how Kemp is recovering. Like, you'd hope that he's doing well, but you never know. So we got to get that kind of information first. Aaron Morrow, Jersey City 61 asked, what should Casey do with 32? Speaks would be a good fit when he gets healthy with that 32 pick. I think you're going to have a corner or a linebacker available at 32 that is still going to be high enough on your board to warrant that pick. But quite frankly, I would trade out of 32. I would trade back into the first 6 or 8 picks of the second and try to pick up another second. Maybe won't get that, but you could definitely get a 40 pick or a 30 pick and a third. Not a problem. That should be the going rate. That all changes, of course. If they trade Chris Jones, they should get another number 1 and possibly a number 3 as well. So there's that too. And Jeff Brittle, you're right. Ben Neiman will be back, but Ben Neiman is a nickel linebacker. He's not a base defense linebacker. They have proven that. I don't think he can take on well enough, and he's not fast enough to play the will, even though he is pretty fast. I don't think that you can just run him into your base defense and feel comfortable. Good question, though, or good point, because I didn't bring him up. Cole's back with Kelsey's experience at the quarterback position at college. Do you see the Chiefs ever using him as the Wildcat QB? I do, and I think especially when you saw him do that little waggle where he carried it left and actually scooted in the end zone. That was where they ran Mahomes out to the sideline. I do feel like there is a possibility where they're going to set that up on film, and eventually Pat Mahomes is going to run a route, and I think Travis Kelce can throw it to him and hopefully complete it this time. Aaron Marr, do you think that the Chiefs talk Sammy into staying for way less money? Does it actually happen, in your opinion? Man, that's a tough prediction. I feel like Sammy wants to stay here. I just don't know that they can get it down enough it's going to be close. So I'll be optimistic, and I'll say, yeah, Sammy will take an $8 or $9 million contract and stay. And they structured it well enough. They save enough money to make it work. Hey, there we go. Dwight Raleigh, I'm glad you got your hat finally. That's great. Metal Rocker X. To refer to my first question, I meant Marlon Davidson. Marlon Davidson. I'm drawing a blank, bud. I'll have to check that out and get back to you. Huh. Next question, Brian Gooch. Lose Jones and trade for Slay. Good question. I don't think so. I think the Lions are trying to get paid like in a way that's kind of ridiculous out of the Slay thing. The Chiefs don't have the capital that they want to give up. Brett Veach wants to use that first-round pick if he can. If not, he wants to get really good value for it. Trading for Slay, I don't think at his point in his career is going to get you that value. You got to plan now at this point. The Chiefs have to plan for perennial returns to the AFC run, championships, hopefully Super Bowls. Like they have to be ready for that. And I think that's going to be something that doesn't necessarily happen without getting younger. So a corner of that age, I'm not sure. It could happen, but I just don't know. Good question, Brian. And thanks again for the super chats, dude. You're funding this channel yourself right now. Let's see. Cole. Oh, the Harris spoke. There you go. John Trong, should we get Shawn Lee? I like Shawn Lee the way that he plays. He has a tendency to make a couple of plays here and there that kind of just hit me as, oh, I didn't think that he would do that or was capable of doing that. But Shawn Lee's always hurt, like literally every year. So no, I wouldn't make the investment in him. That'd be too many ex-Dallas Cowboy linebackers for me as well. So interesting idea, but no, I'm not going to do that. Number one, Chief Rocco, what's up? Any truth to the salary cap increasing to $240 million next season? I've heard that rumor too, and it seems a little far-fetched to me, but we don't have any idea what's written in the CBA right now. Right now, they have the proposal in front of them, right? It's 3 pages. I read it through for you guys a week or two ago, right? I mean, that's all there is. There's nothing new from that. That's what they're voting on right now. The executive committee voted to go ahead with that and send that to the full body. So now they're trying to write it out to give more information for the full body to vote on. And then they have to actually do the full, like all the language, like a book like that of all the specific information. And then they have to vote on that. That seems like a long shot, but I will say that it's scheduled to be around 200 right now. And if they do ratify it, I think it could get up there. I don't think it'll be year one. I think it'll be like 220-ish, 215-ish. But by 2021, 2022, it'll definitely be up there like 240, 250. I believe that is true. Aaron Morrow, that wasn't nice about Shawn Lee. Luke Kramer, Willie Gay looks good. Looks like an interesting linebacker. Yeah, definitely. He can move, that's for sure. Oh, and Aaron, Marlon Davidson was projected to us as an interior defensive lineman. Man, I don't even remember seeing him on my list, my watch list. So I may have completely missed out on a prospect that I should be paying more attention to. Let me see if I have any notes on him at all. The only notes that I have in my book are that he's underpowered. That's all I have. It looks like he did go to the combine. He ran okay. He actually ran quite athletic for 300 pounds. Just kind of paled compared to some of the other guys that were super athletic. But I don't see any explosion testing. 21 on the bench. I mean, the bench isn't the greatest strength test anyway, but yeah, I'm not certain. Clearly he's overshadowed by Derek Brown. That's the only reason I can think that I didn't notice him. But yeah, I'll try to check him out for you guys. Dwight Raleigh, do you think that the Chiefs get a return back to the Super Bowl next season? I think they can. I think they're very much on an edge right now. They need secondary to the point where, like, if they get if they do trade Chris Jones, they get another first-round pick for them, and they invest in the secondary, I think that they can pay off, and you can make that switch. You have to be able to blitz a linebacker, and you got to get a pass-rushing defensive tackle as well. There are holes to fill. Repeating is always difficult. Everybody will tell you that, but I think there's an outside chance. Yeah. Right now, I'm going to say that it's really, really tough, and they'll definitely be a playoff team. But man, making that AFC Championship is going to be tough. The Ravens are only going to get better, in my opinion, so we're going to have to see. Tyler Thatcher, where does Brice Hall fit into your draft standings? Ever looked at Colin Johnson's from Texas wide receiver to play the X? I have seen glimpses of Johnson. I have not done his in particular, but he is on my list. And Brice Hall, I think, is a late second, early third round guy. If I remember correctly, and I can probably go pull that up somewhere, my big concern with him, Brice Hall, was ball production, that he was inconsistent about it. And I like somebody that gets PBUs really consistently. That's my number one metric, other than being able to run with fast receivers. So let me get back to you on Hall next week, unless I can pull this up right now while you guys are being patient and kind. I appreciate that. And of course, that would make it too easy, because if I click something, you'd hope that it went, but it didn't. It's coming up slowly. Let me take a quick look. So Brice Hall, I take that back. For his career, Brice Hall put up 38 PBUs. That was what it was. Only 5 were interceptions. That's kind of a low percentage. If you're somebody who gets your hands on the ball that much, it's generally expected that you're going to make more interceptions than just 5 out of 38. But again, it's all situational. You could definitely improve in that particular category, and I would like to see that. So looking at my board, I actually have Hall at 60, a little bit above the Chiefs' second pick right now. Hopefully that he's still there. I would like to see that. I do like the ideas. I like guys playing with college teammates. I think that's cool. And I think that helps them develop as well. Adam Daughtry, is Hardman the wide receiver 2 next year? I don't think so. Only because what I call the wide receiver 2 is the X, the guy that lines up on the line of scrimmage and has to face man coverage every season. Like, people are going to try to jam him up. And I don't think that's McCole yet. I think he will eventually get okay with that. Like, Tyreek's gotten a lot better at getting off of man coverage, beating the press. And I'm not sure McCole's ready for that. So I still feel like the best place for McCole in year 2 is in the slot for the most part. But they move around enough that he's going to get some X reps, and I think that'll be okay. I mean, maybe in terms of usage, he could be the number 2. I could buy that pretty easily, actually. Cole, if Moore and Henne move on, who ends up as our backup quarterback? That's a very good question, because I don't think it's going to be Kyle Shermer. I think it was Therese Paylor that floated this, and the more I thought about it, the things that you could do creatively in the backfield with Marcus Mariota as a backup quarterback, like a Taysom Hill kind of role, I would love to see that. But I do think that Moore will come back. I think the team's really happy with him. I think Andy's really happy with him, and I think I can see that working out. Oh, didn't realize we were over an hour already, you guys. Thanks for hanging with me and for all the super chats tonight. Let's hit these last couple. Dr. Sanitary, is Chase Claypool still attainable after his combine? Definitely. He's not going to be like a second-round pick or anything like that. And other needs for Casey, because I'm in love with Claypool. I like Claypool a lot too, and I don't really see him as a receiver. I want to see him learn from Travis Kelce and be his backup, to tell you the truth. I do think he's going to be available. I don't know if you can get him with 96 or wherever the Chiefs are picking in the 3rd, but it's a possibility. I'll be very interested to see how the rest of his offseason goes in running up to that. So I'm with you, Sanitary. I want to see him. And I do think that he could fit. Sorry, I'll mute the phone here for a second as we wrap up. Nighthawk Brice Hall is a Virginia cornerback. Let's see. Oregon Chiefs. Chris, how are you, buddy? Who's the player you think will drop through the cracks that Veach should grab? That's going to be a real good question. It depends where. I think like Fulton could fall to the mid-20s. I think Trevon Diggs is expected to be in the 30s. I'm really interested to see what happens with Queen and Murray. A lot of people have them going high, but I'm not so sure that happens anymore. There's so many other guys that performed well, the wide receiver group, the tackle group. I think the tackles are going to go higher than everybody expects right now. So that leaves me with Jefferson's a good one. Someone brought him up earlier. There are other guys, but man, the one who's going to fall, it could be Fulton. I don't know. I'd love to see that myself, but that's just me. Great question, Oregon. I'm sorry I didn't have a better answer for you that time. Adam Daughtry, do you predict 50 plus TDs this year? No, I'm going to call it about 42-ish. I think he'll rebound. I hope that he plays a full season. That's what I'll base that on, but I don't think it's going to be 50 again. Aaron Morrow, what do we have to do to get Malik Harrison drafted here? Get extra picks, basically? I don't think so. If you want a linebacker, I think Malik Harrison will be there at 63 when the Chiefs pick in the second round. He didn't test as well, and I love that. But I do think that's a definite possibility. If the Chiefs move back into the second round, I think they'll get somebody else in the 50s, and I think they'll definitely be able to take a shot at it. And I do feel like they need to start paying attention. Like, I don't know that they need one, but they need a swing tackle. They let Cam Irving go, and that's what they let him do. That's what they liked him for. I'm not sure they're big on Wiley anymore, who's played some tackle, but I think he's best at guard. I do feel like they could use a new swing tackle. And the kid that fits the mold, I think I talked about him earlier, Ezra Cleveland from Boise. He's underpowered, but he's athletic. He's got good experience. I think he's got a decent frame on him. And I feel like he's somebody that they could invest some time in and try to grow up in the weight room and everything else, kind of like they did with Fisher, even though Fisher was a better prospect on film than Cleveland is. Good question, Tim. John Trong, Chiefs go after Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think so. He's been quoted to not care about money and cares for wins. Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. I believe Jadeveon Clowney is not motivated by much. And I think you've seen him the last 2 years play well because of the franchise tag and everything else. I don't think the Chiefs go after him. I personally wouldn't. Brad Gooch, again, you rock, dude. K-Pass, make another leap this year. I don't know about a leap. I thought he made a real big one this last season. I think he will improve, but I think it might be more incremental. I don't know if there's another huge leak there. So, and last one, Info Apocalypse. Any tackles that you would convert to guard? There is definitely one, and I got to grab my notes real quick. And I will tell you who that is, because there was definitely one that I was like, wow, if he's going to go inside, I could see that working out for the Chiefs. He was a little tall. Where'd he go? It's not Jedrick Wills. I'm hearing a lot about Wills going inside because he's only 6'4". That seems a little bit crazy to me. I'm looking. It was not Austin Jackson, although I have heard two people say that he could be a better guard than a tackle. I really like his story. I think he's a good dude, and I do like him there. But the guy that I think can go inside is Pinter, Danny Pinter. He moves really well. He'll be great on screens and pulls. I think he's definitely a guard. I think he played, I don't know what his snap results were. I'll have to look at those. That's it for me tonight. You guys are out of questions, and I'm out of ideas. So I appreciate you guys hanging in. Tell your folks, tell your friends. We're going to be here all off season every Monday night, unless I'm on vacation like that, and I'll let you guys know. So keep the questions coming. I'll have little hints and things about the Athletic Matrix, give you guys some questions. We'll go through prospects. I'll do videos on specific guys, whatever, as we go through. There'll be a ton of content. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I appreciate it. Give Aaron Morrow a hand. Give Brian Gooch a hand. Give Adam Daughtry a hand. All you regulars, I appreciate you guys. And I'll check you next time.